That's not been a great start for the SEC so far in bowl season. A former SEC quarterback, Connor Wingman, led Houston to a big win, 38-35, and a really entertaining Texas Bowl there in the city of Houston. LSU was up in the game, up 14-0 early, but Houston made all the plays late to come away with the win, giving the SEC another loss in bowl play. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Hope you had a great Christmas holiday and a great season overall as we get ready now for the upcoming basketball season. And Patrick, this is a really fun game if you're just a regular common football fan. I think if you're watching from the SEC's perspective, from LSU, what you saw at LSU, there's some building blocks here. Obviously, this team will look completely different with Lane around, but what would you make of LSU's performance there, going up early but eventually losing?
Well, I think you have to take into account that some of those defensive stars that we've seen throughout the season did not play, and whether that was due to injury, opt-outs, getting ready for the draft, or whatever. But, I mean, you go up 14-0 early, you get the kickoff return for a touchdown to start the game, 99 yards, take it to the house, and then just a few minutes later, I mean, it's 14-0, 4 minutes into the game, and then all of a sudden that lead is gone by the time it's halftime, and then you just get outscored pretty badly the rest of the way. But, I mean, it's been a reoccurring theme this entire year, LSU just unable to get the ground game going for Michael Van Buren, who honestly I think had one of the better games of the season. Now you could talk about how it's Houston and they're still in the beginning stages of their time in a Power 4 conference, but still I think Michael Van Buren, we talked about it last week, I think a little bit, about how he's trying to play for tape. In my opinion, he was just trying to play to put some tape out there for coaches. I would expect him to enter the portal here pretty soon because he's not going to compete with whoever they bring in under Lane Kiffin.
Well, and I think if it is going to be a transfer of some type. So I don't know if it's going to be any one of the main guys that Lane Kiffin brings to LSU or one of the guys that's already on the roster. I think a lot of these guys were looking to put on good tape for Lane Kiffin, and you saw in the early stages, as far as statistics go, he was 16 of 26, 260-something yards, 267 yards. And 3 touchdowns there in that game against Houston, and a really good QBR there, 86.9. But you mentioned it, the fact that they were not able to really run the ball with any kind of consistency. 77 yards overall, really led by Harlan Berry. I know he had 45 yards, but Van Buren had 24 yards himself. It just kind of seemed to be a kind of a recurring theme with this football team. And we talked about it going into the game. Like, it felt like Houston, just from a want-to standpoint, they probably had more desire to play in this game because LSU had so many opt-outs going into it. But, going down in the hole, I was like, okay, when I started watching, I was like, hey, this is an LSU team that, they are more talented. I think definitely more talented football team. But I just felt like the desire, the want-to, was all one-sided. It was all on Houston's side.
Well, and I just think it's so interesting because we had talked about, is LSU just at this point trying to get this season over with? I mean, you've got so much hype in the future here, and this season has been such a dud. I mean, they were my preseason SEC champions, and then we all saw how that panned out. I think they went 3-5 in SEC play. And Lane Kiffin is there. I was wondering if he was going to make his way to the game. I didn't really expect him to make his way all the way up into the booth, and I think he only stayed for
there was some talk about this. I think it left in the second half, or early in the second half, maybe even at halftime. Maybe not even, but there were pictures of him, leaving. And I thought about that too. And the internet was making a bigger deal of it.
How do you think? What's your thoughts?
To me, it would be more awkward if he's on the sideline, if he's too engaged. And it's typical whenever a coach does, come to the bowl game. It's typical that the producers of the television product will obviously want to have the coach in there, and usually those guys acquiesce and they say, okay, they'll do it because the team can't hear it. Obviously, they're on the field playing. But it's a unique situation because we talked about it on this show, the fact that Frank Wilson, who's the interim coach, he's actually leaving to go to Ole Miss to become Ole Miss's coach. So it might have not been as awkward. I remember a few years ago, I think it was Trenton Dilfer, when he was about to coach at UAB, he went to the bowl game and he was on the sideline. it felt kind of awkward. When you had the new coach there was another school that had it as well. When the new coach is just kind of it feels like they're just hanging around.
Well, James Franklin did that for one game at Virginia Tech.
That's
this
right.
Year.
Yeah,
I believe it was the Miami game. But I mean, I feel like I could see where it can be awkward because you've got a guy right now that was coaching in Frank Wilson. Now he's going to head up to Oxford.
Right.
Presumably he's already up there.
Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention. I haven't been doing the flight trackers or anything. But I mean, it just seems a little interesting to me that the way that Lane kind of left, and it's just he wants to stir up the pot and everything. And I know he posted today that his on one of his Instagram stories with the caption 4 days, and I think that means 4 days until the transfer portal. And he had he had another post yesterday about how he's at work trying to do all the scouting on the transfer portal. I mean, they're going to have a great class, and he's probably got to pick out his quarterback here pretty soon. But one interesting development that just came out today is Cam Coleman entering the transfer portal.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if Lane Kiffin threw a bag at Cam Coleman and then threw a bag at like DJ Lagway or someone else.
Right.
And that's like your 1-2 punch, basically.
Yeah, and you talked about Cam Coleman. He will be the hottest name. On3.com is reporting that when the transfer portal does open on Friday, that Cam Coleman's name will be on there. You would have to expect that he would be probably the hottest commodity.
The number one, without a doubt.
Of any position, really.
Yes.
Maybe outside of quarterback. I mean, even quarterbacks, I feel like this guy, he kind of eclipses that because of what he was able to do there at Auburn. Auburn now has lost 5 receivers to the transfer portal. So it's a really interesting situation going on there with Alex Golesh as he tries to implement what he's doing there with the Auburn Tigers. But there's going to be some interesting noise here. And I think that if you put your name in the portal at this point, it's because you either have something already set or you have some kind of guarantees on the back end that you probably know where you're going. I would obviously – I think LSU would have to be a spot that you're looking at. Georgia would have to be a spot that you're possibly looking at. Ohio State, they are seemingly always in the running for some of the top players, mainly because they have shown over and over again that they will pay top dollar for a lot of these guys. But I feel this LSU team will look completely different next year than the 7-6 team that just finished off the year this year.
I have to ask you the question because there's one guy that's kind of been playing for a spot on Lane Kiffin's roster, and it's Trey'Dez Green.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about him before the year about how he's a basketball player converted into a football tight end. We didn't really know what we were going to expect out of him. He scored 7 touchdowns this year and even a couple against Houston in the Texas Bowl here. So I really wouldn't be surprised if I almost feel like that guy right there, Bauer Sharp, was supposed to be the tight end coming into the year.
Right.
And the former head coach, Brian Kelly, was very high on Bauer Sharp, and he gave him nothing but praise before the year. But I almost feel like Trey'Dez Green kind of played himself into that top tight end role. And I mean, when you look at the transfer portal right now, and obviously it doesn't open again for another few days. It doesn't open until January 2nd. I don't see a lot of depth at the tight end position. And, I mean, you've got a guy that's kind of – Trey'Dez Green almost to me is kind of like a Jake Ferguson where in the red zone you can just throw it up to him and he'll go and get it. He can be that reliable target for LSU in the red zone. And we've seen how – the offense has struggled at times this year just to put points up on the board.
Yes, exactly. Especially, and if you get down there, like you mentioned, you just throw it up to him, and it feels like you just play basketball with them inside the red zone because he is a matchup nightmare for corners, linebackers, or safeties. You've been really high on Trey'Dez Green, and it showed towards the end of the season that he was a true weapon for them. I would think Lane Kiffin would want to do anything in his power to be able to keep Trey'Dez Green there on the roster and intact with this football program because, to me, that can be a guy, not necessarily you build around, but he's definitely be a guy that is an asset to whatever quarterback is in there, and especially if they can get the running game going, add the running game to what they are able to do offensively, being able to throw the football at the perimeter and then go up top to a guy like Trey'Dez Green.
Look, if LSU wants to dish out some money, and I'm sure this was obviously the hot topic about the whole Lane Kiffin saga was, how much money are you going to give me in NIL funding? Right. From what we've seen right now, if Lane Kiffin can go and get either DJ Lagway or I honestly also like Josh Hoover.
Oh,
over
yeah.
at
Yeah, at TCU.
A proven guy.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if Trinidad gets his waiver, I still don't know if he's going to leave Ole Miss. But if he were to get one of those two quarterbacks, it seems like he's kind of starting to trend in the direction of getting Kewan Lacey to leave Ole Miss. And then you get Cam Coleman. You keep Trey'Dez Green. This team is national championship contender next year.
100%.
With that defense and those guys coming back, the Weeks brothers.
Right.
Like come on.
I think they might lose Harold Perkins Jr. to the NFL, but I mean, if he stays,
they can just reload.
Yeah,
they got the number one guy, Lamar Brown, the number one D line, and I think he's the number one recruit in all of
probably. I think the
entire
one
class.
overall. Yeah. This team is completely different. And one of the things on the broadcast that the guys asked, I think it was Tom Hart and Cole Kubelik that were on the game broadcast. One of the things they asked Hugh Freeze, and one of the things they asked Lane Kiffin was, do you treat this differently at LSU than you would at Ole Miss? And he straight up said, yeah, because you have so much talent right in the 50 miles that surround you, that you do have to treat a little bit differently and go more local instead of having to go, whether it's Portal King or whatever. So you blend what he's been able to do with the portal with the fact that he's in a place that has so much talent right there, on his own soil, so to speak. I think the sky's the limit for this team next year.
Yeah, but before we get to next year, let's talk a little bit about this year because, I mean, obviously it was a failure, but if you were to give it a letter grade for this season, what would you give it?
I think they made the right decision by firing Brian Kelly. So I'll give them credit for that. I think that getting rid of him, while expensive, while messy, while dirty, while it didn't play well in the public spaces, getting rid of him was the best option, and being able to get Lane. So the fact that to me, it looked terrible, but I'll give the season an A for what they were able. Sorry, I'll give the product on the field gets a D. Yeah, because they got the win over Clemson, which that watered down.
If you just said straight up A, I would have been like, you're out of your mind.
No. It's straight up A, no. But the way everything has been since I would say since they fired Brian Kelly, as ugly as it was, I would give all the decisions, I'd give it an A because you eventually got Lane Kiffin, you eventually got the hot name, the hot commodity, and you're able to now to start the groundwork because, like you mentioned, the recruiting's already gone well so far, unlike other places like Auburn where guys are transferring in and out of there. So you're able to get the guy that you think will be the leader that can send you to a national championship soon, in my opinion. But obviously on the field, that Clemson win now looks blah. To me, so I would give the field a D. Postseason an A.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have to give the play on the field, if we're just going off of that, an F.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can really give it. When your best win is week 1 against Clemson, and how all of us talked about how Brian Kelly couldn't win the first game of the season.
Right.
He was 0-4 up until that point, and then he wins that game. And it's like, okay, maybe this is LSU's year under Brian Kelly, and maybe he can start to live up to some of his predecessors.
Right.
And, I mean, that Texas A&M loss was just absolutely shocking at home. What happened in that second half? You obviously had to fire Brian Kelly at that point. But, I mean, when you look at it, they went undefeated against unranked teams. Their 6 losses all came against ranked teams. So, I mean, if there is a silver lining there, that is it. But, I mean, if you're going off of play only, it's what we like to call an F. This is my F. This is my F for you. I'd almost give you an F- because that's how bad it was this year for LSU. But I think Lane Kiffin brings it up to a D.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you obviously knocked it out of the park with the hire. But you have to make sure you spend their money in the right place.
That's the thing.
Yeah. You're going to spend. I wouldn't be shocked if LSU. I don't think this would ever come out, but if it ever did, that LSU spent the most money next year, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right, same here. And going back through their schedule, I mean, they lost to Ole Miss 24-19, a one-possession game. They lost to Oklahoma 17-13, a one-possession game there. Lost to Alabama 20-9, kind of pulled away there towards the end, and lost to Vanderbilt 31-24, another one-possession game. So this is a team that they feel like they're right there, and I feel like Lane Kiffin more than makes up for it. Also, shout out to Connor Waitman, the quarterback at Houston, a former SEC guy.
Former Texas A&M guy.
Yeah, former Texas A&M guy. Those 4 touchdown passes there. I think that he's out of eligibility. And he's played 4 years of college football. I think he might be out of eligibility, but if not, he would be fun to watch, you know, moving forward with this team, and if Coach Fritz is able to keep him there.
All I'm going to say about this is what I've taken away from this past weekend is since LSU lost to Houston and West Virginia beat Houston, that West Virginia is better than LSU. So I'm just going to hold that on my pedestal for the rest of the year up until next year, until Lane Kiffin, you know, just dominates everyone, and then I can no longer say that.
Oh, I was about to say, it'll be definitely short-lived there.